Hi, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Amberlicious.
We're Untitled Nerd Network. This is video 2 of our franchise-wide Scream review. We're reviewing every movie in the Scream franchise, and today is Scream 2. Little bit of background on this one. I've seen it one time before today, like in theaters in like the first 2 weeks it opened.
Which was 97.
God, it came out the very next year.
The very next year. I know they did a lot of maturing on characters' looks for a year.
Yeah.
But to be fair, it's like I told you though, because when we had a discussion of they don't look like teenagers when it came to Stab.
Yeah.
And I said, well, the last crew didn't really look like teenagers. I was like, maybe seniors. But that's kind of true though, because they're in college now.
Well, I said they did because their hairstyles.
And then you said the hairstyles.
It was, it's interesting because this was like the same change in look, like, you know, in the X-Files.
Yeah.
Mulder looked the same from like start to finish.
Yeah.
Scully, however, like the first season, 2 seasons,
yeah.
She had like the bangs and the lighter hair, and it was kind of frizzy and everything.
Yeah.
And then like afterwards, she had like the straight, extremely hot, like kind of, you know, shoulder cut look, and her hair was parted, and like the exact same thing with the women in this one. The first movie, they had bangs, they had, you know, kind of more puff, like, I'm not going to say 80s hair, but definitely 90s hair.
Yeah, it was like early 90s hair. What it was is like, this is probably released, think about it, Courtney Cox was on Friends at the time.
Yes.
And
yeah, she actually made a mention
of Jennifer Aniston in this movie. I don't know if you remember, but Jennifer Aniston's haircut, which is the Rachel cut, this is exactly what they're all wearing, the part with no bangs. And once that became very popular, it was everywhere.
Yeah, that's what Scully had, the same haircut. Everybody had that.
Mm-hmm.
So, spoilers from here. Oh, how many times have you seen this movie?
I've seen it quite a bit. It's been a while since I've watched it. It's probably been about 2 years, maybe. Probably when you first bought me this.
How many times have you seen it?
Quite enough that I knew everything that was going to happen.
Okay.
So, I knew the plot. I knew everything that was going to happen.
Well,
I knew who the killers were. That's why I was like, because you've only seen it the one time, it was like you watching it for the first time again. And so it was great to see you trying to guess who might the killer be.
Yeah, it's been 27 years.
Yeah.
So, I remember my cousin and I went and saw the movie for the first time, and spoilers from here on out. It was rough because, like, I enjoyed the movie. I'll go ahead and tell you, this is a movie that I think does better than the original.
This is a very good sequel.
Yeah.
Very good sequel.
But
they use the same formula of they talk about how scary movies are supposed to be.
Yeah.
How sequels usually are. And this, that, and this. And they're making a point to do some of the same said things.
I was really irritated that Randy died. He's the guy who's like the movie expert who gave the big speech in the first one, and he does pretty much the same thing in this one.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he gets hacked up in the back of a van.
Yeah.
I hate that. And the first time I saw this movie, you think that Dewey is going to die, played by David Arquette.
Yeah.
And I was telling you during the movie, the first time I ever saw this movie in theaters, I was crying because he was like my favorite character.
Yeah.
And at the very, very tail end, like the last 2 minutes of the movie, you find out, he actually survived. And the reason they gave was because, I guess,
the scar tissue from the first movie saved him.
Yeah.
Which, that sounds pretty legit to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if that could really happen. But
I'm no medical expert, but it sounds right.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I'll go ahead and tell you, there were like 2 reveals at the end as to who the killers were. Once again, 2 killers. And one was Mickey. And I'll go ahead and tell you, when he unmasked, if they wouldn't have said his name, I wouldn't have known who the hell he was. I didn't
He
even
had
remember.
that minor of a role, really.
I didn't remember him.
Yeah.
At all. I was like, wait,
because he was like in the first act, but like kind of obsolete in the second one.
Wasn't he in the cafeteria with them for a little bit?
He was in the cafeteria. He was in the film class with Jamie Kennedy.
Oh God.
So.
Yeah, like that was, but the big reveal was that the person helping him, and I guess the grand mastermind of it all, was the other reporter who was like up and coming and, you know, looking up to Gale Weathers and all that, who actually turned out to be Billy Loomis's mom, who he was one of the two killers in the first one. And she orchestrated this whole thing to get revenge on losing her husband to Sidney's mom. Losing her son, you know,
Sydney,
she didn't think, oh, you know, he's a killer. No, that was just, you know,
no,
you
took my son.
Yeah,
you don't know what it's like to be a parent, but she abandoned them.
Yeah,
you know,
but
it's like, well, I guess that's where he got his psychotic tendencies.
And what's her name? Laurie Metcalf, right? Is her name? She actually was played by Laurie Metcalf.
Jackie.
Yeah, Aunt Jackie from Roseanne and the Connors. And the first time I saw this movie, I didn't put two and two together.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm so surprised.
Like, you got like, if you think I'm bad now about not recognizing people.
Yeah, back then.
Like, when I was 13, 14 years old, I didn't recognize anybody.
That was just such a common thing, I guess, in my family, to point out, hey, that's so-and-so from what you call it, you know. That was just how I was brought up, so I always noticed stuff like that.
It was funny, though, because as soon as they introduced Cotton Weary in this movie, I was like, Sabretooth from X-Men Origins Wolverine!
Yes.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah, because when we watched that the other day, I remember I was like, oh, that's old Cotton Weary.
Did you say that?
I did.
I do not remember that. That is crazy. But, you know, in my opinion, this movie didn't really have a lot of memorable kills. It
has a couple, and that's about it. The
only memorable kill I know of in this movie that I can recall offhand is the very beginning of the movie.
That's a good one.
The theater kills. That is almost like just common in pop culture. Like that was one of the most famous kill scenes of the 90s, you know.
Right.
And
that's one of those things that, like, you watch that now and you're like, that shit could really happen now.
Yeah.
it is kind of scary.
I have the bad feeling that something like that could happen now. People could know that it's happening right in front of them and still be okay with it. Like, something like, you know, everybody's like, hey, if I'm safe, that's all right. But yeah, this particular movie, we were talking about how dated the first one was.
Yeah.
This one has stayed relevant.
Yeah, this one's not as dated as the other one. Now, granted, she did have the caller ID like this.
Yeah.
And there were still landlines, but it was still not as dated as the other one. One, because they didn't really utilize the phone as much in this movie.
Yeah.
It was more about the action and the chase and...
Yeah.
There was that guy that police officer got that pulse up through his eye. That was pretty badass.
Yeah. Well, see, I don't know if I really... I guess I do consider that a kill.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like, we've got a dog barking outside. I just know it's coming through.
Yeah.
I don't think that... does that really count as a kill?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was almost like an accidental kill by the murderer because...
I mean, yeah, it worked out in his favor, I guess. You're right.
Because basically what happens is the killer, there's these two cops and they're escorting...
Yeah, they're supposed to be protecting Sydney.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be following her around and all this kind of shit.
Two of the most incompetent police officers I've ever seen in a film.
Honestly, it's just real life.
Yeah. This is a very realistic film. But the guys basically, they're at a red light. Ghostface shows up, busts the window out, kills one of the guys instantly. The other guy in the passenger seat's fumbling around, and when he finally comes out, he ends up getting thrown onto the top of the car, and Ghostface is driving, driving all around trying to shake him off. And then they kind of run into some barriers, and like a bunch of construction equipment, and this big iron rod like goes right through the guy's head, through the windshield. And I'm just like, yeah, technically that was a ghost face kill, but really, the killer just got lucky there.
They did. The killer did get lucky.
They
got lucky in general because they were in a police car, which was stupid to begin with, so they couldn't get out.
Yeah.
And so then they had to crawl over the killer to get out of the car. Why don't just kill the killer right there?
Yeah, that was.
But did they have something to do that with, though? I guess.
Yeah, that was probably the most stupid mistake.
Yeah.
In the entire movie was they got out, they take off, they make it about 20 yards up the road,
and then they want to go back.
Yeah, and she
wants to go back.
She almost pulled his mask off right there in the car. So this movie, despite being one of those movies that points fun at old horror movies and the tropes and the stupid decisions, people made a lot of stupid decisions in this movie.
I think that's the whole point of these movies, though. I really do.
Well, it didn't happen as much in the first one.
You think so?
If people made stupid decisions in the first movie, it was out of pure necessity, like I said.
That's
like,
fair,
there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I gotta go upstairs.
Yeah.
But in this one, I feel like they were just, we were making stupid decisions to move the plot along. And and I'm just like,
That's fair.
I hope that quality of storytelling doesn't get worse as we go forward in the series. Because I've only seen Scream 3 one time. It's going to be almost like watching the first movie all over, or that movie all over again for the first time. And then I've never seen Scream 4 or Scream, the reboot or whatever it's called. And I'm just like, dang, I can't. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Did you have a favorite kill?
Probably the theater kill.
Yeah.
Also an intense kill, probably not like the most favorite, was when they killed Jerry O'Connell. The brothers kidnapped him and stuff, the frat brothers, because he gave his letters away, blah, 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 blah. And they left him hanging there on the star that they were doing the play for.
I wonder if you could be charged with accessory to that.
I know, right? That's pretty wild.
Because, hey, you left this dude just hanging there, and then...
Right. Then he got shot.
Yeah.
But, because of her past trauma, she didn't want to untie him or anything, and...
Yeah.
And I get it, but at the same time, God, that must have sucked for her. That was an emotion. That was a real emotional thing right there.
Oh, yeah. This woman has more PTSD than anybody I've ever seen in a movie.
Right, yeah.
Like really, it's like just as soon as she's starting to overcome it, like this happens.
Yes, that's it.
And then, I feel like she kind of had her crap together at the end of the movie, but they really don't show, the long-term effects of seeing a second boyfriend get killed, having somebody else try to kill you. I would be...
Your ex's mother.
Every time the anniversary rolled around at this point, I would just be like...
What the fuck's going down today?
Like, hey, I know we know each other, but... No weapons. No weapons around me at all.
That's it, yeah.
I'll be setting up metal detectors at the front door.
We had another Freddy Easter egg in this one too, remember?
Yeah, very, very minor Easter egg.
You pointed it out, and I had never noticed that before.
It was in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Yep, they were in Sydney's dorm room.
Yeah, and they had what looked like, it was, instead of red and green, it was like a red and like a dark blue color.
Yeah.
But it was a Freddy.
The same pattern.
Yeah, it looked just like it.
It was a Freddy sweater, yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't have a hat.
It was just hanging there, because it was the only reason they didn't have a hat is because it was the girls' room,
Yeah.
So it was one of the girls' sweater.
How many, are there any more of these movies? Are the rest of the movies directed by Wes Craven?
I'm pretty sure they are.
They didn't pass it off or anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's just something I don't know. We'll have to look. I'll probably know more about that by the time we do Scream 3, which will likely be next weekend. Yeah, we got a busy weekend ahead next weekend. We got all kinds of stuff. Yeah, Amber's birthday's next weekend. We're going to be going to, probably, it's not set in stone, but we're going to be hitting Spirit Halloween. We're going to be going to a local haunted house. You're going to get to go to Build-A-Bear. There's going to be a lot of stuff.
A lot of fun stuff.
A lot of stuff going on next weekend. And so, what do you give this movie?
I'm gonna give it an 8. It's not a 10.
Yeah.
It's not a 10, but it's still one of my favorite comfort movies.
I'm not gonna go that far, but I will agree with you on the score. I'll give it an 8 because this was
scary
better.
Movies aren't really your type of comfort movies. Let's be fair.
Well, no, they aren't my type of comfort movies, but I can enjoy. Like, I've got some 10s in the horror films. Among my 10s is the original Pet Sematary, Stephen King's It.
Oh yes.
The original, not the new one.
I do enjoy the new one. Don't get me wrong, but the old one's got a lot of nostalgia and it's really scary.
I like the new 2-parter, but we're more along the lines of like an 8 on those for me. Like
that's fair.
I think they did a little bit better job adapting the books.
Yep.
There was a lot more stuff that they couldn't include in network TV.
Yep.
But let's see, Stephen King's It, Pet Sematary. God, what else have I got that would be a 10 that I could just watch? Well, you might kind of have a point because those are like the only two. Those are the only 2 horrors I can think about. I'm pretty sure there's like one.
What about The Shining?
It's more of like a 9 for me.
Okay.
Yeah, like I really enjoy it.
The Shining. That's one of my favorites.
And I don't know if you would really count or not, but the movie The Day After, the nuclear war movie from the early 80s, which was actually released the week I was born, which is
that's wild,
freaking weird. But that to me is a horror film, and I give it a 10. But for this one, I give it an 8 as well. Like I said, it's not one of my favorite movies, but it's a good, solid film, and it's better than the first one.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. It is better than the first one.
So I'm wondering, like, if we not... Oh, Sarah Michelle Gellar had a brief part. Like the first half
everybody
of the movie.
and their brother was in this movie, was they not?
Yeah.
And they stood true to, the reference that Sydney makes in the first movie. Well, if they get somebody to play me, it'll probably be Tori Spelling. And that's who they cast in there. And Luke Wilson actually was Billy in that movie. Which I don't know if you know. You might know him from Kicking It Old School, maybe. Legally Blonde movies, several other movies.
I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
I was about to be like, wasn't Henry Winkler? But no, he was in the first one.
That was the first one.
I feel like
the first one.
I feel like I'm missing another major cameo that was in this movie. Well, Jerry O'Connell, but we've already mentioned that.
Yeah, he was the boyfriend.
Also, just in case you didn't know, because I know it's been memed to death, but Jerry O'Connell was the kid Vern in Stand By Me. So that's every time I see him now, I'm like, oh. Yeah. First time I'd ever heard of him was Sliders.
Yeah, that's what role I remember him from.
Yeah. So I guess that's Scream 2. Yeah, we just watched it. 8 out of 10 on both of us.
Yeah.
And I guess that's it. We'll be back hopefully next weekend for Scream 3, but we're going to knock all 5 of these movies out before Halloween.
Boop, boop.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Amberlicious.
And we are Untitled Nerd Network. Remember, we will be at Chattanooga Comic Con the weekend before Halloween.
Woo-hoo.
Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing celebrity interviews, talking to people, talking to cosplayers, taking photos.
It's going to be so much fun.
Yep.
I'm going to be in cosplay.
I might be in cosplay. We've already talked about my costume choices. I have 3 choices that I can be. One is Negan.
Yeah.
I don't have the bat, though. I got to get another bat. But that costume is hot as hell because we have...
Right. It's going to depend on the weather that weekend.
It has the leather jacket. I have a Jubilee crossplay, or what, gender bend.
Yeah.
I have a Jubilee cosplay where I dress up, but it has the yellow rain jacket that you have to wear to make it look authentic, and that's hot as hell.
Right.
So I may possibly be Ghostface.
Right.
That might be my...
Because you can at least take the mask off and run around in the robe.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that big a deal.
We know I don't want to take the mask off. I'll be walking around creeping people out all weekend.
That's fine.
But
if it's cool enough for you to be Jubilee, then I can be Wolverine with my claws.
All right. Anyway, we're a Untitled Nerd Network. We will see y'all next time for Scream 3.